Welcome back to the Less Insurance Dependence podcast. I'm your host for the session, Don Adeesha. And today we're asking a question that every dental practice owner should really be thinking about. Are you marketing to the patients you actually want or just the ones you happen to get? A lot of dentists want more fee-for-service patients, more high-value treatment opportunities, and more patients who truly understand and appreciate the quality of care they provide. But the problem is, their marketing may be sending a completely different message without them realizing it. Sometimes the website, the ads, the photos, and even the offers are attracting patients who are mainly looking for convenience, insurance acceptance, and the lowest possible price. So today, I'm joined by Naren Arulrajah, founder and CEO of Ekwa Marketing, to talk about how dentists can identify their ideal patient, understand who their marketing is currently attracting, and make smarter changes to bring in more of the right patients over time. Naren, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Really appreciate this opportunity. And when you were sharing the title of the episode today, are you marketing to the patients you want or just the ones you get? Kind of reminded me about the human struggle. And most of us, if you're being very honest, are living an autopilot life. In other words, we do things just because we were told to do them. You know, for example, I'll put myself under the microscope. You know, growing up as a child, I would come home with a mark of 70 out of 100. And my mom is like, good job, son, but why don't you try for 80? And these are the things you can do to get an 80. And then I would get an 80, then she would ask for a 90, and then I would get 100. She's like, why can't you get 105? So that was kind of ingrained in me of just doing more. Doesn't matter why I'm doing more. Doesn't matter, is it important? Is it not important? Just doing more, becoming more successful, right? And a lot of times we live a life, one day we wake up and we notice we live a life that's not necessarily our life. That's not necessarily something that we really need or want at this stage of our life. For example, I'm 50 now. All my kids are grown up. So what I need or want at 50 is very different from, perhaps what it should have been, when I was at 25. But unless I proactively go and think about that, and then realign my life to what has changed because of time or whatever else, my life will not change. Because I remember after my mom passed away, I was thinking, like, half of the things I'm doing, why am I doing it? Like, that why was not there. Because, we all know this, especially for dads, a huge, invisible, unsaid is, hey, we have to be the providers. So it's all about providing. But when your kids are adults, that's no longer the case. They're on their own, doing their own thing, so you have to really ask the question, am I living an automatic life? Is my practice an automatic practice where I just do whatever is in front of me? I just wake up in the morning and just do what I thought I was supposed to do, versus is this a practice you're creating? Just like, am I doing the things I want to do is a question all of us should ask. In other words, the way I ask that question is, if I were to die today, am I happy about how I spend the last 24 hours? How I spend the last week? How I spend the last month? If the answer is no, that means I'm not doing the things that I need to do in this phase of my life, right? Same way, are you doing the things you need to do to create the practice of your dreams? Or are you just waking up and doing stuff just because that's what everybody else is doing, or just because that's what seems to work? Versus, there's again a favorite story of mine. Somebody loses a diamond and they're searching under this light, and the person passing by said, what's going on? He says, I lost my diamond. And he says, what are you searching for? I'm searching for it. And he says, why are you searching here? Oh, that's because that's where the light is. Versus, where did you actually drop the diamond? What do you really want? What is your ideal practice? And are you doing the things to create that ideal practice? So I think this conversation today is really like unpacking that. And again, having done this for 19 years, I kind of see what the doctor wants and then they say they want is totally incongruent with what is actually happening in their practice. So if anyone is interested, this might be one of those amazing episodes. If you really want to wake up it could help you realize some of the challenges or mistakes you're making. And the other thing I also want to say is the unknown, right? The blind spots. Once all of you are doctors, so you know how to be successful, how to go after a goal, you know how to create, stick with something and make something happen. But what if you don't even know that something you are doing is hurting you? What if, it's not even registering because you nobody talked to you about it, nobody told you about it. So I really think just like we have the mirrors. I mean, nowadays we have sensors and cameras, but just like we have a mirror in the car that tells us there's this, other car in our blind spot, you need to really look for those blind spots. Things you don't know, that's keeping you going in circles, keeping you struggling. So once you discover it, now you can slowly start chip away at those blind spots and reduce the times you almost got into an accident to nothing, because you're always aware of those blind spots. You always, because there is a blind spot and there's a car behind on that spot, you don't do things that causes that accident.
What a poignant way to open up this episode. Thank you so much, Naren. Really. Wow, that's amazing. That intentionality that is missing, let's really figure out how to get that into our practice and really attract the patients that we want. So let's look at those blind spots, shall we?
Absolutely.
Many dentists want more high-value, fee-for-service oriented patients, but they may not realize their marketing is attracting a completely different type of patient. How does that happen?
Life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So is a practice. Going back to my example of me just living the life that my mom wanted to live, which is do more of whatever I'm doing and be more successful, whatever that means, without realizing, is it important? Is it useful? Is it in line with, what I need in this phase of my life or what I want in this phase of my life? So the only when I started examining everything from the perspective of what I want, in the practice's case, what an ideal practice is, then I started noticing I'm spending half my life and putting energy into things that are not really advancing what I want. So the real question you need to start is, what is your ideal practice? And in this particular question, you said the ideal practice is high value patients, fee-for-service patients, right? But if you are not aware of it and you're not creating it, what happens is whatever is will continue. Just like, like my mom was living with us for 12 years and I was just, continuing doing more and more and more, even when that more and more didn't really give me what I wanted or what I needed that phase of my life. For example, I ignored my health. For example, again, my mom didn't say ignore your health, but subconsciously, I was just living this automatic life of just more and more and not realizing what is important, what is not, right? So if your goal is to get these high value patients, again, I work with, 500 practices and I've been doing this for 19 years. I work with Gary, who's an expert and who coaches many of our mutual clients on how to grow their practice. And one of the things we notice is, the doctor says, I want high value patients, but you haven't worked on it. You haven't transformed or changed your organization. So we listen to phone calls and many of these high value patients never book. Why? The practice, let's say, is a PPO practice. They know how to ask about insurance and get all the data around insurance and book that patient in. They don't know how to make that high value patient who's going to pay out of pocket feel welcome. They don't know how to, grow their confidence so they feel like all the things I discovered online is true and I should come to the practice. So the average percentage of high value patients who are getting booked is 20%. So let's say your marketing is, you're saying, oh, I need more high value patients. I need more high value patients. And your marketing is driving it, but you never looked at the phones. You don't know how many new high value patient calls are coming in because it's not being tracked. And then you don't know how many of them actually booking. So you're busy trying to get high value patients, but 80% of them don't book. And what do? They go and write negative reviews about you or never ever think of you again because that experience sucked. So that's one of those unknown unknowns. Do you know what your conversion rate is? Do you know how many high value patients are calling you? Literally every single one. Do you know what happened in that conversation? Do you know how many of them booked? Do you know how many of them did not book? And the beauty is we live in 2026. All this can be done today. We live in the world of abundant technology where technology can do anything and everything for us. So, but if you're not aware of it, you're busy trying to get high value patients. It's kind of like saying, busy, I want to do more and more and more, but my health is declining. My relationships are declining. What's the point of that more? It's not getting me what I wanted, right? So one day you have to wake up and look at everything versus your goals, versus your dreams, versus saying, this is my dream, but then do the autopilot things that are not consistent with getting you the dreams. So that's one of the leaks. The second leak is, how do you change a people who are dealing with the question of, is it covered by insurance? All insurance. Let's say you have a practice that is currently dominated by PPO. You can't really blame the team to continue to transform themselves into insurance team members when that's all they see. That's the question they get. So they're worried about somebody yelling at them, or you told me it's, like you're worried about the patient's not being told it's not covered by insurance. I hear this, like sometimes the patient is calling for some high value service and the team is talking about, oh, it'll cost $2,000, it'll cost $4,000. They're like scaring the patient. Why? Because they're thinking, insurance patient, that's how they're going to react. How much does it cost? Why won't insurance cover it? Et cetera, et cetera. So they are like literally scaring the patient. Even the patient who was excited calling, at the end of the call, they're like, oh, should I really do this? Imagine you love your car and you wanted to get the car redone, and instead of getting you into, what an amazing car is going to look like. And, so let's say this is an old, car that you're trying to refurbish. And, instead of talking about that, you talk about, oh, it's going to cost you $100,000 for this or $30,000 for that. The person will get turned off, meaning they're like, oh man, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I shouldn't go through with this. And the funny thing is the doctors are not aware of it because it's a blind spot. They don't know the conversion rate. They can't listen to these calls. So this repeats itself. So the doctor is busy saying more new patients, especially high value patients. It never happens. If you want to not be a PPO practice, you need to train your team on how to not act like a PPO practice. But if you're not aware of, what's going on the phone or what's being said, what's not being said, then you will recreate the opposite of what you want. In other words, your team is doing the opposite of what you want. An incentive structure, right? Again, I've seen this happen time and again. Doctor says, we need more new patients. We need more new patients. But the team sees new patients as a pain, not an opportunity, not something to benefit from. So it's almost like you hear it in the tone of their voice. They could care less. Actually, they would appreciate if the new patient didn't show up. Just the way they talk, just their tone, how excited or actually lack thereof, right? So you're saying you want new patients. Have you figured out why is the team not aligned with me? Why is the team not, excited about new patients the way I am? Like what is the root cause? Maybe they're not inspired. Maybe they're not incentivized. Maybe they're not, on the same page. Yes, they might say yes. Remember, what somebody says yes to is different from what they actually do. You have to get to the root cause and solve for it so that what comes out of their mouth and what they're saying yes to reflects in how excited they are on the phone, reflects on how dedicated they are in making sure no calls are getting missed. You know what I mean? So those are the things, the unknown unknowns, things that are invisible behind the surface. Remember, heart attack doesn't kill somebody in 2 seconds. It has been building for years. It's just that you didn't know about it. You had no idea about it. And all of a sudden, boom, it happens and you're gone, right? Same thing here, right? It's like all of these things are happening in the background that you are not aware of. So if there's one thing that you get out of this, starting to notice the blind spot. So listening to your calls, looking at your conversion rate. And the other thing is you keep saying, oh, I want, implant patients or Invisalign patients. When I Google implant or Invisalign, are you showing up? Because that's how people find you. Like if you want to grow your implant, you should be showing up 20, 30 different times. Have you looked at your Google Analytics to know what are all the keywords related to implants that people are typing in? What's your average position? How does your competitor show up next to it? Do you have proof that you're a good person, good doctor when it comes to implants? Do you have before and afters? Do you have a ton of those? So people, when they go there, they're like, it's not just him saying he's amazing. It's real. I can see his cases. Do you have any reviews that tell that story? Or is it like you just sitting there and saying, I'm wonderful, I'm wonderful? You know this. None of us trust what comes out of somebody's mouth. We trust evidence in the form of reviews. We trust evidence in the form of before and afters. So these are all the blind spots you need to start looking for. It's one thing to say, I want this, but then are you changing yourself? Are you transforming yourself, your team, to be able to accommodate this? Those are the blind spot you need to look for.
What an amazing analysis right there. Truly, a lot of our doctors listening in, they might be wanting that ambitious goal of getting their ideal patients in. But if your practice is not ready to accommodate the needs, the demands of those ideal patients, well, there we go. That might be your very first bottleneck. So, Naren, before a dentist changes their marketing to address this concern, how should they define who their ideal patient actually is?
Yeah, I believe there are two ways to look at an ideal patient. One is the type of services you want to be an expert at, right? Again, don't do it just because your friend is doing it. Don't do it just because it's lucrative. Something you're passionate about. Let's say you're passionate about beautiful smiles. You know what? Then take extra CE, do some free cases in the early days, create those, before and afters, create that proof, because that also tells you are getting better and better and better. And the proof is telling you that, this is happening more and more and more and more, right? So that's one way to look at an ideal patient. Like, what are these people saying? So for example, read your last 10 reviews. And if you have paragraph reviews, and those paragraph reviews are saying certain things, oh, they treat me like family. Oh, they have great technology. Oh, they are always on time. Oh, I used to be afraid of going to a dentist. Now I love going to my dentist. He makes everything painless, right? Those seems to be what your ideal patients care about. Now, if you're not having paragraph reviews, you have a problem. You don't have relationships. Your patients don't love you. So, of course, figure out how to get them to love you. And then, of course, encourage them. And again, there are techniques on how to have them write these wonderful reviews. And if anyone is interested, go to the website and we will share the tips with you. So look at what your ideal patients want. And like I said, study your Google reviews and write down the 5 things or the 3 things that keep showing up again and again. Oh, they treat me like family, etc. So that's the qualitative aspect of an ideal patient. And then the other piece is, who is my ideal patient, right? That's where, implants, veneers, the 3 or 4 things that you love and you're continuing to get better at, not just what everybody else is doing, but what's for you. For some people, it's sedation and, painless dentistry. For other people, it's, treating advanced gum disease and like really preventing, heart attacks and dementia and everything else, and the overall oral health. So whatever you're passionate about, are you showing up? Are people finding you for those things? So once you know who your ideal patient is and what they want, you can now be a hero to them. The question I ask is, who do you want to be a hero to? One, on the qualitative side, are we doing the things that my ideal patients care about? Or my ideal patients care about painless dentistry? Or my ideal patients care about, being treated like family, because they have been sick and tired of people who treat them like a number and who don't even know their names, right? So once you know what they care about, are you doing that? Or my ideal patients are looking for these things and we are good at these things. Now we need to make sure people who are looking for those things are finding us by ranking on Google, with the Google reviews, with the cases. Their confidence is growing. So once you know your ideal patients, are we doing the things to make our ideal patients find us, like us, and then finally, once they do dentistry with us, trust us?
Amazing. So that's the way we can really dive into who our ideal patient is. Very simple answer. Thank you very much, Naren, for that. Who do you want to be a hero to? Start there. Now, you have found who you want to be a hero to. Now, the next question is, what does it look like to align that marketing message toward the kind of patient who actually values that quality care and not just the lowest cost?
That's a great question. And I'm going to talk about it in a bunch of different buckets. The first one is the fundamentals, right? You all, became doctors. I'm sure, you have to do well in your exams. You have to do well in, the labs. You have to make sure your professors don't hate you. Like, there are a lot of things you have to do which allowed you to become the doctor, that you are today. and you figured those things out, and you worked on them, and whether you agreed with them or not, you did what you need to do, those fundamentals, and you are here today. You are a doctor, right? Same way, there are fundamental things. Like, for example, if you don't know what your conversion rate is, you don't know if you're booking 1 out of 3, or 3 out of 4, meaning 33% or 75% of new patients. You need to know your conversion rate. That should be comprehensive, whether it's a lead coming in or whether it's the phone ringing. The biggest hole that I see is in the phone conversion rate. People have no idea. You need to know what percentage of the calls are getting answered. If you're answering 95% of the calls, wonderful, keep doing it. But many practices are only answering 50% of the calls. So half your patients can't even get through. What do? They go to the next person on Google and call that office, because they don't want to go to an office who doesn't even answer phones during office hours. Why would they, right? That's telling them, these people don't care. So that excitement they had just gets, it's like, that Humpty Dumpty sitting on the wall and being very happy and falling down, and now it breaks into pieces. It's the same thing. All the work you did in marketing to get them excited, gone, because the phone is not answered, or it's not answered well. So conversion rate, missed call percentages. Do you know these things? Because if you don't know these things, you will continue to have blind spots. You will jump up and down about more new patients, but that may not be where the problem is. So you need to make sure all the things that could go wrong. I've done this for 19 years. Gary has done this for 46 years. You know what the metrics are. If they are the right level. Are you converting 75% of your patients? Are you missing less than 5% of your patients? So those are like some of the fundamentals. Now let's flip this from the perspective of, let's say you want to attract ideal patients who happen to want Invisalign, right? Are you showing up for those keywords, on ChatGPT, on Claude, on Google, especially Google Analytics? Why Google Analytics? Because Google gives you this comprehensive dashboard on how people are seeing you on Google Maps, how people are seeing you on Google SEO, Google AI Overview, and AI Mode. So 4 different ways for people to see you. Still, Google is 95% of the way people find you today. It's worth $4.7 trillion, meaning it's the second most valuable company on planet Earth outside of NVIDIA. It is the reason they are is they own the consumer market. Like they are 20 times bigger than ChatGPT, or 30 times bigger than ChatGPT. So there's Google, and then there's everybody else. So you want to make sure when it comes to the platform that controls 95% of how consumers find you and choose you, you are dominating. You are in the top 5%. Why? The top 5% get all the free benefits, while the other 95% who literally get left behind when it comes to getting the free benefit from Google are only getting customers through very, very expensive ads or through PPO plans that's even more expensive. So how are you doing on Google for the services you care about, right? Going back to my earlier comment about fundamentals, right? Are you getting 10 or more 5-star reviews? There are paragraph reviews every single month. Every single month. It's very easy. Go to Google My Business page. You can sort by, recent, and you will see, count. Did I get 10 new reviews in the last 30 days? It'll even say, less than a month, 4 days, 7 days. So you can count everything that says, in days versus, month or 2 months or whatever, right? And if that number is not 10, and if those are not paragraph reviews, you have work to do. Just like, once you start looking at your conversion rate and you're noticing that you're only converting like the average dental practice 1 out of 3, you have work to do. You need a coaching team. And that's where, we provide that, not only the tracking piece, but also the coaching piece. So the fundamentals, once you realize the ideal patient you want to attract, are they finding you? And then go and look at it from the customer's perspective. We talked about Invisalign. Do you have those cases? First, when I type in Invisalign, you're showing up, and assuming you're showing up organically, not through ads, am I going to the right landing page? When I go to the right landing page, do I see the wonderful work you have done over the last 10 years, the beautiful smiles you have created? And do you have at least, half a dozen of them, ideally with full face after pictures? Why? When you do close-ups, people don't appreciate it. Imagine, you want to sell a wonderful restored car that you have worked on. Yeah, you can show them the engine and talk about all the technical details. The 3% of the people who know engines will appreciate it. But what about the 97%? You want to show that beautiful car driving down a wonderful curving mountainous road, and you take a video and you put it, this is the work we do. Which is going to appeal to the people? That beautiful car driving down the mountainous road, or a close-up picture of the engine? You know what I mean? So same thing, like show that full face after picture, the transformation. They're like, wow, this is what I want. I want that beautiful smile. Again, these are all the gaps you can start, looking at and start aligning yourself with. Now, marketing, just like dentistry is a passion, you need a firm who's on top of all of this, who has real metrics, who can like talk to you about these things on a quarterly basis. One of the things I realized as the founder of Ekwa is I needed a customer success team. I needed a team that can constantly look at, if these gaps are there, and slowly but surely help our clients improve. We realized we needed to do new patient coaching, because sometimes we can fix everything on the outside, but if the inside is not fixed, like 1 out of 3 people are booking, there's no Google reviews showing up, there's no beautiful pictures in the landing pages. Like the other stuff is getting wasted. It's like a leak in the bucket, right? You are not doing the things. In other words, it's kind of like me just doing more and more versus doing more and more of health, more and more of relationships, more and more of purpose. So getting into that nuances of what do I want and then doing those things is where the gap is. So I enjoy this. I love this. And I know I built a team of 300 people who love, noticing these things, fixing these things, helping people, whether it's on their own or with our help, transform these things. But that's where the magic is. It's not in just doing the same old thing you did yesterday more and more. That didn't work yesterday. It won't work today. Just have to find out where the blind spots are. You have to find out and start leaning into those things.
Appreciate that, Naren. And truly looking at it from customer's perspective is a game changer. It's not easy to do because you will be always in your head from your perspective, but that's the step you got to make to ensure that you are visible to your ideal clients. Now, how can a dentist audit their current marketing to really understand who it is really attracting?
Absolutely. I'll give you a list. Please write this down, or, take some notes. If you want, we'll make it into a graphic and we'll put it on the website. So hopefully you can grab that graphic. Number one, you want to know your call conversion rate. Why? Because it'll tell you an underlying problem. If you are good at, rolling the red carpet, let's say for ideal patients, your call conversion rate would be very, very high. Why? Because you're so good at building rapport. You're so good at, getting that patient to love your practice, and you have been on top of it. So know your call conversion rate. And if it's anything less than 70, 80%, go in, listen to those calls, especially the ones that did not book. Find out whether it's a system issue. Sometimes patients don't want to wait. Sometimes it's a training issue. The team is not trained. So that's one thing I would lean into. Call conversion rate. If it's less than 70%, dig deep, find the root cause and solve it. And solving sometimes takes weeks and months of consistently looking at it. Just because you look at call conversion rate once and say, oh, I'm going to do this, doesn't mean it's automatically going to happen. You have to check it again next month and the next month. The second thing I would look at is the quantity of reviews, right? Again, a good sign. A healthy practice should at least get 10 or more reviews, and also quality 10 or more reviews. What I mean by quality is they're 5 stars and they're paragraphs, right? Because once you start seeing paragraphs, oh, they treat me like family. I hated going to a dentist. Now I love going here. They make it so painless. They have the best technology. So anything, like I have never seen a practice that uses technology to really give me the best care like here anywhere else. The teams, know me by my name. Jenny, the hygienist, is such a wonderful person. She's so caring. Actually look forward to seeing her, as opposed to my other doctor visits. I cringe going there, and, the way they talk to me and the way they treat me, so those are the kind of quality reviews. Of course, people won't put down the other side, but they will say glowing things about why they love coming to you. So look at the quantity, minimum 10 every month, and quality of those Google reviews every single month. That's a good indicator. Those things are working. You have a relationship-driven practice. You have a practice that's, I want to use the word self-actualizing, meaning it's getting better at the things that it cares about. If it's wanting to attract new high-value patients, you will start noticing, I haven't been to a dentist for so long, and now I come to Dr. Smith, and boom, everything is done because I love coming here. They make me feel at home, and, etc. Right? So you start seeing those kind of verbiage and language to reinforce that what you're doing is actually working. If you don't see them, It's a great sign you have holes in your system. In other words, what your mouth is saying you want, which is XYZ, is not consistent what your actions are actually doing. These are all early signals. So I really think that's where I would start. And the other thing is, I would look at the wide end of the funnel. Am I showing up for those keywords organically on ChatGPT? On all the different parts of Google through Google Analytics. A metric I would give you, that's a simple yes or no metric. Am I ranking for 100 or more keywords and phrases or searches that are popular every single month in the top 10 spots of Google? Doesn't matter whether it's Google Maps, Google AI Overview, Google AI Mode, or regular Google search. Am I showing up for 100 or more? Many of our clients, thanks to the popularity of AI, instead of showing for 100, are showing for 150. So lean into that. Lean into what are we doing to really, really show up on Google and do well on Google, right? And if you're not, again, that's a hole you need to fix.
Right. Okay. So really walk that walk. Now, the toughest part about walking that walk is figuring out that path to walk on. So, Naren, here's the golden question. For dentists listening to this and wondering, is my marketing attracting the right patients or not? What should they do first?
I mean, again, I'm telling you this from experience. I've done this for 19 years. Everything I said would make sense to dentists because I've heard people say this again and again and again. And anytime somebody sees me, they appreciate me for the wisdom and the ideas I share and how valuable it is. But I also know many of them are just busy with life. They just go back to what they did 2 minutes ago before listening to the podcast. So if there's one thing you can do, I would recommend booking a marketing strategy meeting. And the reason is, this is a lot of work to figure all of this stuff out. It'll take 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. And when you're so distracted by your family, your other commitments in life, your practice, the demands of practice, you won't get to it. Or even if you do get to it, you're not going to spend 6 hours on it. So it really never really gives the impact that I wanted to give from the podcast. So book that marketing strategy meeting. And the link is lessinsurancedependence.com/MSM. So what do we do? It's a $900 value. It's our gift to you. We will spend those 6 hours. We will see how you are showing up on Google. We will see what's happening to your Google reviews. We will see even the fundamentals, the blind spots behind the blind spots. In other words, if you're not showing up for 100 or more keywords, there are blind spots that's causing that. Like, for example, maybe the content you have doesn't meet Google standards. Maybe it's AI generated. Maybe there's a lot of duplicate content, right? Those are the blind spots behind the blind spot. Maybe your NAP, which is name, address, phone number consistency, is not doing too well. Google Lighthouse Score and Google CRUX. If you're a big site, many of our clients over the years, we have clients from 10, 15 years ago, they have massive sites. So they need to worry about something called CRUX. How are you showing up on CRUX? Is it working for you or not? Smaller sites, they need to worry about Google Lighthouse Score. Again, are you doing well or are you not? So all of these blind spots behind the blind spots, we will spend the time researching you and we'll tell you what's going on. Like, at least it's kind of like you go to this full comprehensive checkup and you will know what's going on. I mean, I recently read a review from somebody on our Google page, and they talk about how appreciative they were about this one meeting we did at no cost to them. The amount of stuff they learned, literally the person said, I have never in my life had a meeting that was so thorough, that was so detail oriented, not, scaring you, just telling you the facts. And the way we do that is we listen to Google. Why? Google is 95% of the market, at least when it comes to the front end of the funnel and how people are finding you. So those are my tips. Book that marketing strategy meeting. Just do that one thing. It'll take you 1 minute. Just book that meeting. And I think you will thank me for it. And then now you have a document. We'll send you a document and findings. So even if you do something or not, you can go back and refer to it. It's available to you. And then you can decide what you want to do. And of course, if you really want to transform and do the things you said you want to do, which is, this wonderful practice that's life-changing and it's inspiring and you want to jump out of bed for, then start dealing with these blind spots. Start dealing with these things that have slowed you down year after year, sometimes even decade after decade, and do something. Why? We can't go back in time and, get the past back. I can't go back in time and, stop all the mistakes and all the time and energy I wasted and all the things I did that I'm not too proud of. But I can look forward and I can use every minute by asking the question, am I doing the things that's moving me closer to my ideal practice? Or am I doing the thing that's moving me closer to the man I want to be or not? And be specific, like it's not just one thing, it's many things. On the personal side, relationships, right? My mom talked to people, everybody loved her. And I remember her funeral and the number of calls and the number of people who came to see me. And it just made me realize I completely ignored that side of my life. Like, I don't know anybody. I don't talk to these people. Why? I'm like, oh, my mom is talking to them, right? I created a list of 200 people, 100 people family and 100 people friends. I mean, I'm, exaggerating, maybe more like 180. And sometimes I touch base with some people once a year, some people every month. Why? Because it doesn't matter what they do or don't do. That's important to me. So even just asking the question, what is important to you? And now figuring out how do I go and live those things that are important to me will move you in the right direction.
Naren Arulrajah, thank you very much. So take a moment after this episode and look at your website, your Google profile, your ads, your reviews, and your overall message. Ask yourself, what type of patient would this attract? And if you want help answering that question, you can book that complimentary marketing strategy meeting at lessinsurancedependence.com/MSM. I'll repeat that one last time, lessinsurancedependence.com/MSM. Thank you for listening to the Less Insurance Dependence Podcast. I'm your host, Don Adeesha, and we'll see you in the next episode.